Or push to talk.
Okay.
So when you're not speaking, just
Yeah, when I head to Boston and then I'm heading to Vegas for a couple of days.
Oh, so you're not Good afternoon, everyone. I want to welcome everyone to the Transit Management Committee and Rail Management Committee meeting for September 3rd, 2025. Pat, will you please take roll call?
Yes, good morning, everyone. City of Avondale, Harold Seguina.
Present.
City of Buckeye, Andrew Blanchard. City of Chandler, Jason Crampton.
Here.
City of El Mirage, Amber Wakeman. Town of Fountain Hills, Dave Trimble.
Here.
Town of Gilbert, Mary Goodman. City of Glendale, Kevin Phelps. City of Goodyear, Keeney Knudsen. City of Mesa, Scott Butler.
Here.
City of Peoria, Chris Hallett. City of Phoenix, Amber Williamson. Town of Queen Creek, Shay Yoakum.
Here.
City of Scottsdale, Nathan Dome. City of Surprise, Andrea Davis. And City of Tempe, Rosa Inchausti. She is online along with Kevin Phelps, and Chris Hallett from the City of Peoria is also on.
Thanks, Pat.
And Chair, so we are ready to proceed. We do have a quorum.
Thank you, Pat. A few house rules. If a committee member would like to ask a question or make a comment during the meeting, please type your comment in the box and it will be read out loud and answered. For all of our attendees, please mute your computer microphone or your phone during the meeting. Thank you. We'll start off with item number 1, public comment. The public will be provided with an opportunity at this time to address the committees on non-agenda items and all action agenda items for the joint RPTA and VMR meeting agendas. Up to 3 minutes will be provided per speaker unless the chair allows more at their discretion. A total of 15 minutes for all speakers will be provided. Pat, do we have any public comments?
No, sir, not today.
Thank you. Moving on to item number 2, Chief Executive Officer's report. Jessica?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, members of the committee. I do have a few items to provide you with updates on. If you did join us last week for the board meeting, these are some of the same common updates. We're off cycle in that the board meeting and TMC RMC meetings are in consecutive weeks, but same points that were important then are important today. Quick ridership update. We've had a very strong final quarter of FY 2025 with system ridership. June itself was particularly outstanding system-wide across all modes. Ridership in June of 2025 increased 8.6% relative to June of 2024. May was a positive increase, but June saw 5 times the increase that we had in the month of May. Light rail and Streaker have historically, in terms of at least recent trends, led the charge with ridership growth, but we have had a very strong final quarter for bus ridership across the system. I want to note in particular, we are seeing pretty significant increases in some of our express and rapid ridership across the system. That's encouraging. I do want to note that we do have a new fare collection system. So that means there are new fare boxes out there, new ticket vending machines, and electronic validation. So while there is increased ridership, some of that might be ridership that we weren't effectively capturing. And we're working right now at validating that ridership against our automated passenger counters, so we understand that impact. Next slide, please. I want to provide an update on our bus network redesign. We call this our comprehensive operational analysis. Our team has been working very closely with our member community staff, along with our consultant, Transportation Management Design Associates, on collecting data so that we understand the performance of our existing transit system, as well as have our finger on the pulse of how people, not just on transit, move across the valley, as well as where concentrations of population, employment, and other economic drivers are located. We're working now to develop a plan for engaging our riders and key stakeholders in this process. We have engaged some consultant assistants to act as an extension of our team. We will share that stakeholder engagement plan back with city staff through our regularly scheduled meetings before we begin. That public engagement, is scheduled to begin next month. And what we'll be talking about at this early stage is how our riders are experiencing the system. So what's working for them, what's not working for them. We'll begin to narrow the conversation as the project itself progresses. Ultimately, we intend to arrive at a final set of recommendations via a final report in summer of 2026. Again, many touch points happening within the month, throughout the month, with our city staff on this important work. So here's how this comprehensive operational analysis actually comes together to present a final plan. We have this in-depth dive looking at our travel behavior, our rider markets, but we're also looking at what we call our transit toolbox and service standards. So what types of service do we have available for us, even within urban bus? We've got a number of differentiators like frequency, service schedule, vehicle size, that by which we can differentiate products to better tailor the market. We're also looking, as I mentioned earlier, at the built environment and how we respond to that. We're putting that together to produce a network design concept that really prioritizes customer convenience and customer experience. And I think there's some key indicators in our system now that suggest that we're not as productive as we could be, that there are clearly defined pain points for our customers. The ability to transfer as seamlessly as possible from one route to another is challenging for our customers today. And we know that not all trips can begin and end on a straight arterial corridor. And so we need to make it more convenient to time those transfers for our riders. So ultimately, we will be coming up with a proposed network of routes, but within those routes, it's also frequencies, stop locations, and then tailored community options outside of those fixed routes. So I wanted to give you a preview of what that's going to look like in the months ahead. As part of South Central Extension and Downtown Hub, we opened a community resource hub at Cityscape. Cityscape is the hub location where our A line and B lines converge. We have a pilot project for the first 6 months of operation, whereby we have customer service staff who are actually located inside of that center, assisting customers with information and wayfinding. This is also a hub for our customer experience coordinators who are pictured here. This tiny but mighty team of 14 are deployed across light rail and streetcar, supporting our customers, providing helpful information as they can. And they've been especially helpful as customers navigate our new two-line system. We have been making big investments in system security across all of our modes. And today I want to provide you with a little bit of an update. We did transition our security contract to Intercon on May 12th, deliberately in advance of the opening of the South Central Extension in Downtown Hub. I am delighted to tell you that we have a significant increase in security presence across the rail system as a result. Within this contract, we have the equivalent of about 255 field security officers. These are the frontline teams on the ground, patrolling platforms and riding the system with our customers and team members. We also have 32 supervisors. Now, just to give you an understanding of the equivalence, in our last contract, we had a full-time equivalence of about 105 officers out on the system. So tremendous increase. If you have ridden the system or you have been around the system, you see it. You see them in their bright neon shirts. You see their presence and engagement. And the good news is that's beginning to bear out in the data. We have received customer complaints. I joke a little bit about this, but some of the customer complaints we've had of late are my fare is being inspected too much. It's not a bad thing for this moment in time, right? Because we're coming from my fare is not inspected enough. I don't feel like I should have to pay my fare because nobody is asking to see that. We also began streetcar fare collection on August 4th. So we're just about a month in, and we have to have a security presence there to reinforce this new policy and to help our customers navigate. We've been working very closely with our Rail City Police departments. Within City of Phoenix in June and July, we conducted 10 code compliance details in partnership between Intercon and Phoenix Police Department. That has been very successful. And what we're really trying to do is provide that additional layer of enforcement so we can escort people off of the system who are not, who do not have a valid fare, who are not obeying the code of conduct, issue citations, or recover that fare, or even issue summons or arrests as needed. But mostly, we're enforcing the code of conduct with them. Oh, I didn't mention on the last slide, this is really the zinger. Because of this increased presence, and it's not just since the Intercon contract, we were really leaning in those waning months of the Allied Universal contract. We've seen a 47% reduction in reportable incidents across the system from FY '24 to the conclusion of FY '25. It's early in FY '26. We're just a couple of months in, but based on the presence and based on the data, I expect we're going to see even fewer incidents and crimes across the system in FY '26. It is good news to share. On the bus side, which is of course an important part of our system, we must always remember every day 70% of our customers are actually riding our bus. We've seen a 60% reduction in operator assaults. This has been a significant threat facing the entire transit industry in the last 5 to 7 years. So we have leaned in. We're working on a program called Operation Blue Ride, by which Valley Metro Security is partnering with our local law enforcement entities across the bus system to encourage them to proactively board and ride the system, providing that important, visible, uniformed law enforcement presence. Operator assaults are also now a felony offense in the state of Arizona, and all of our buses, Valley Metros and City of Phoenix buses, clearly display that information to customers as soon as you board the system. We're informing you that it is a felony to assault a transit worker. Our transit workers are grateful. Those buses, those trains, they are their workplaces, and it is impossible for us to retain and support our workforce if they don't feel safe coming to work. So we're delighted with the 60% reduction that we have seen in operator assaults. Please. Just looking ahead, a quick preview into when we'll come together. We'll be here for our Audit Finance Subcommittee tomorrow, and September 18th is our Board of Directors meetings. And this committee will come together on Wednesday, October the 1st. Are there any questions I may answer of the committee?
I have a quick question just on the COA.
Yeah.
I keep getting to turn that on. Sorry. On the COA, I'm just curious. I know we're doing community engagement. We're getting input from riders, which is great. And then coming up with prospectively, what are we looking at for the future? In the final report, do they provide any historical information on ridership? And just for context, I had a council member ask that when we discussed this in a recent citizen petition. That's why I'm asking the question.
Yeah.
Is that part of that analysis in that final report, just to give some historical perspective?
So that's in the existing conditions report, Ms. Williamson, and I think we could pull that. I'm looking at Michael Eshelman, our Deputy Chief for Service Planning. We can pull some of that context into the final report. The final report will certainly include what I would call reasons why. Here's where we've come, here's where we're heading, and here's why these recommendations are being made.
Okay, and I think it was most interesting too to look at pre-pandemic.
Oh,
Right?
yeah.
I think pandemic, obviously, we all know that kind of created a lot of challenges, and it wasn't really representative, but that was just the question. So I think, thank you for that.
Yeah, we'll be able to tell that story. And for our system and transit systems across the country, here in 2025, we've kind of settled in to what ridership looks like more or less after the pandemic. And we are seeing some lasting impacts on travel patterns since the pandemic. And so now we're having to respond with our network to accommodate where people travel today, which is different than where and when people traveled in 2019. Mm-hmm.
Any other questions for Jessica? Thank you for the report. Moving on to item number 3, consent agenda. This consent agenda is presented for action. Are there any questions from the committee or any items that need to be pulled for separate discussion? Hearing none, I request a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items 3A and through 3D.
I'll motion approval.
We have a motion
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Moving on to item number 4, travel and expenditures. Are there any questions from the committee as this item is presented for informational purposes only? All right, no questions. Moving on to item number 5, report on current events and suggested future agenda items. Are there any current events or suggested future agenda items the committee would like to put for consideration? All right, hearing none. We will move on to item number 6 for our next meeting. Next meeting is for the TMC RMC is scheduled for Wednesday, October 1st, 2025 at 11 a.m. And with that very short meeting, I will ask for a motion to adjourn the TMC RMC meeting.
So moved.
Got it first.
Second?
There's a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries. With that, we will close the Transit Management and Rail Management Committee meeting, and we will now adjourn for the Transit Management Committee. Okay. Our first item is a consent item. Again, this consent agenda is presented for action. Are there any questions or any items that would need to be pulled separately for discussion from the committee? Okay, hearing none, I request a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda items 1A through 1F.
I'll move to approve.
First,
I'll second.
second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that carries. Thank you. We'll move on to agenda item number 2, articulated bus purchase contract award. Jessica, if you would like to speak a little bit on this agenda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I would like to invite Greg Thompson, our Deputy Chief of Bus and Van Maintenance, to the podium to provide a brief presentation on the purchase of 17 articulated heavy-duty compressed natural gas buses. Greg?
Thank you, Jessica. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, good morning. Today, staff is recommending that the TMC forward to the Board of Directors authorization for the CEO to execute a cooperative contract with New Flyer Industries for the purchase of 17 heavy-duty 60-foot articulated buses. These 60-foot buses will be used in Valley Metro's local fixed rail system and are critical for meeting the demands of the corridors. This purchase will replace 15 2011 model year articulated buses that have exceeded 500,000 miles and 16 years of service at the time of replacement, as well as 2 additional articulated buses that were rendered unusable in 2022. Replacing these vehicles will help maintain service reliability, reduce maintenance costs, and ensure we continue to provide safe, efficient, and accessible services for our riders. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Are there any questions from the committee? Okay, with no questions, then I request a motion and a second to move forward to the Board of Directors authorization for the Chief Executive Officer to execute a cooperative contract with NFI Group Incorporated to procure 17 articulated heavy-duty CNG buses with an aggregate value not to exceed of $26,184,619.
So moved.
Second.
Have a first motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to item number 3, Mobility Center lease extension. Jessica?
Thank you. I'd like to invite Angie DeVore. She's our interim chief administrative officer to the podium. This year, within the next year, I should say, 2 of our largest leases do expire. The first is Mobility Center. This is our 44th Street location where our accessible transportation services teams is located. This is both an internal administrative facility as well as a customer facing facility where we provide services including ADA assessments and travel training. Our customer service leadership team is also housed at this location. Later this year, we will come to this committee and subsequently the board to request approval to renew or choose new space, however it turns out, for our administrative offices, which are currently housed in this building. So stay tuned for more to come on that. Angie, do you want to walk us through the 44th Street process?
Sure. Well, thank you, Jessica, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. In 2010, Valley Metro entered into a 15-year lease agreement at 4600 East Washington Street. also known as our Mobility Center, and that lease will expire at the end of this year. At that point, we have the option of either extending the lease or moving out of the facility. The 23,930 square feet of lease space currently houses a small suite for an on-site Valley Metro customer service, the ADA paratransit call center and assessments, travel training, ride choice eligibility processing, accessible transit services staff, and the sales of paratransit and Phoenix style ride tickets. Now, this is kind of a very unique space. So the primary functions of this unique space is the space depicted in the photos is really twofold. The first is conducting assessments for ADA complementary paratransit eligibility. And the second is for travel training for those with disabilities and seniors 65 and over on how to use the bus and light rail system. As you can see in the upper left-hand corner, that's kind of where the course begins, where the bus is located. And then as you round the corner, you will see a bit more of the course in the lower right-hand corner. Valley Metro worked with a real estate professional on state contract to address key priorities. And those key priorities were contract flexibility and favorable financial terms. The negotiated terms resulted in a 126-month or 10.5-year lease, 12 months free rent, free parking for the duration of the lease. Operating expenses will be reset to the new base year at the end of 2026 instead of using the 2005 costs as the base. And why that's important is because the base year really is the starting point for all operating expenses. Under the new lease extension, Valley Metro will not pay any rent or operating expenses for calendar year 2026. The average rent over the 10.5-year term is $27.71 a square foot. The 2025 average lease rent is $28.64. So as you can see that the 10.5-year term is lower than the current annual. And it is also lower than the average submarket in the area, which is $30.06 a square foot. As far as restoration and tenant improvements go, under the current lease, the agency must restore the space to its original condition. And that's at an estimated cost of about $570,000. And that's primarily due to the complexity of removing the bus and the exterior features that are in an interior space. Those exterior features include like a traffic light, hardscape surfaces such as curbs, ramps, railings, stairs, textured ground surfaces, anything that someone would encounter out in the normal bus and light rail environment. The new lease does remove most of these restoration obligations with the exception of bus removal. And they would also allow Valley Metro to use up to $359,000 for restoration. And those which would minimize, or in this case, eliminate the impact to Valley Metro. The new lease also includes the following built-in flexibility options. It's the right to expand on the third floor in the first 24 months. And we can also reduce or terminate space after a certain period of time, as noted in the slide, with notice and fees. So overall, the lease extension will provide Valley Metro the flexibility to adapt as its needs change without being bound by a restrictive contract. Staff does recommend that the TMC forward to the Board of Directors authorization for the CEO to execute a 126-month, 10-year, 6-month lease extension, which is the 7th Amendment to the office lease with Copperpoint Holdings, Inc., the landlord, for the base rent in an amount not to exceed $6,961,742.71. And with that, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Are there any questions from the committee?
I think that was the mic drop.
I think everyone, if the time comes when the bus is removed, I think it'll be a spectacle that everyone would want to see. So if there are no questions, then I request a motion and a second to move forward to the Board of Directors authorization for the Chief Executive Officer to execute a 126-month lease extension with Copperpoint Holdings Incorporated for the base rent in the amount not to exceed of $6,961,742.71.
I'll move that. I just also wanted to mention, thanks to the Valley Metro staff for that great work on negotiating the terms of this lease. That looks like a phenomenal value, so appreciate that.
I'll second.
We have a first and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Item number 4, report on current events and suggested future agenda items. Are there any committee members that would like to report on any current events or any suggestions for future agenda items? Okay, if none, the next meeting will occur, the next transit management meeting will occur on Wednesday, October 1st, 2025 at 11 a.m. And can I have a motion in a second to adjourn the transit management committee meeting?
I'll move to close the meeting.
First,
Second.
and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Meeting's adjourned. Hit the gavel.
Oh, yeah.
Now you take over, right? So RMC.
All right. Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and move forward and open the meeting today for the Rail Management Committee. First on the agenda is item 1 for the minutes. The consent agenda is presented, for action, and I'm going to ask if there's any questions from the committee or items that you feel need to be pulled for separate discussion. Okay, hearing none, I'll request a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items 1A and 1C. And 1B. Do I have a motion
So moved.
and a second?
I second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, agenda item number 2 is asking Jessica to introduce the item. Jessica.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This item is a request to authorize me to execute a contract with Promark Technologies for the purchase of hardware, software to support our SCADA system. This is our supervisory control and data acquisition system. This is our train control system, and this little screenshot here is an example of what you will see on many different screens in our operations control center at our operations and maintenance facility. This is how we monitor and control the movement of light rail vehicles and streetcars throughout the system. I want to invite Rob Rosenberg, our Deputy Chief for Rail System and Rail Vehicle Maintenance, to provide an overview.
Jessica. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Jessica. Members of the Rail Management Committee. The item before you today addresses 3 operational technology issues. The first, Jessica mentioned, it deals with our SCADA server. So the SCADA system does monitor all train movement and critical mission sort of infrastructure throughout our system. So during a pre-Super Bowl OT cybersecurity audit, it was identified that it was really best practice to have a redundant system for the SCADA system. It's really needed for 2 reasons. The one is for reliability. It's a mission critical system and the reliability is important. The second is it gives our team the ability to make changes, whether it be upgrades or repairs to the SCADA system without completely taking the system down. The second item that this memo also covers deals with was also identified, during the cybersecurity audit, and it has to do with the switches in our IT SCADA system. So it was identified that the switches that we currently use to bring all that information back to the SCADA system were outdated. They did not allow for proper monitoring and for logging of the different data that goes back and forth between these infrastructures and our SCADA system. So this memo will address that and replace those outdated switches. The third item that this memo or this recommendation covers has to do with our CCTV servers. We brought before you previously that we're upgrading and replacing our camera system along the alignment. As we upgrade that, we're putting improved cameras in there that have a much higher resolution. With that higher resolution requires the need to store that data, so we need more storage. It was also identified during SEPTED, or we anticipate during SEPTED, that it's going to have recommendations to add additional cameras to our network, which again facilitates the need for additional storage. And the recommendation is before you.
All right.
Happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions, Rosa or Scott? Hearing
No
none.
question.
No
All right.
question. Thank you.
Thank you. So staff recommends that the RMC forward to the Board of Directors authorization for the Chief Executive Officer to execute a cooperative contract with ProMark Technologies for the purchase of server hardware and software with an aggregate value not to exceed $2,999,012. Do I have a motion for approval?
I motion to approve.
Second?
And second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
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 Motion approved. Thank you. All right, moving on to agenda item number 3, report on current events and suggested future agenda items. So committee members, are there any reports or requests for future meetings or agenda items for future meetings?
No items.
Okay. All right, hearing none. Our next meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, October 1st, 2025 at 11 o'clock a.m. Can I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
So moved.
I second.
Second? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.